Welcome to our live sleep chat. I am Mar DiCarlo, founder of the International Parenting and Health Institute, as well as the Director of Education. And I'm here with Soda Kuchkowski, who is our instructor of our Integrative Adult Sleep Coach Certification Program, as well as the founder of Start with Sleep. And we are here today with our monthly live sleep chat to talk about is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or ACT, also used in terms of acceptance and commitment therapy, better for insomnia and addressing your sleep challenges, or is there something else? So we're going to talk about that today. Let's start talking a little bit about just insomnia in general and some of the common things that happen when people go through insomnia. What are some of the things that, let's just talk about that. Let's start there, Soda.
Well, I think the first thing is to identify the fact that there are different types of insomnia. So therefore, when you're talking about therapies or what to apply, that is going to be very relevant. Are you going through something because it's a transient change in your life, right? Like, has there been a death of a loved one? Like, is there grief? Are you a caregiver? There's different reasons that we can have sleep challenges that can cause short-term problems. We can have more acute problems that could last, between a month to 6 months, and then we can have more chronic conditions. So what you apply to each will depend on what you're actually going through, or what type of help that you need. So I think that's the first thing to know.
Exactly. So before even jumping to a therapy, to a solution of any kind, going through an investigative process to understand first what is going on is essential. This continues to happen all the time, where I will jump into a forum. I'm sure you have experienced this, Soda, and many others I'm sure have experienced this as well. You'll jump into a forum. Someone asks a question about getting support for their sleep challenge. I have insomnia. I'm not able to sleep at night. What do you recommend? And before anyone bothers to ask questions about the person's situation, they're jumping right to the solution. I tried CBT. I tried ACT. I tried this sleep medication. I went to this, doctor. I went to this sleep coach. So they're jumping right to the solution versus going into the actual case itself to understand what is specifically happening with that person, because there's a lot of key and vital information we need to understand to then know where to guide that individual, which may not necessarily be any of those things that people have recommended.
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes to insomnia, it's a blanketed term as well, right? Are you having trouble falling asleep? Are you having trouble staying asleep? Are you waking up too early? Are you waking up feeling unrefreshed? So depending on what that challenge is how you're going to go to that. And it's like our current system, right? It's based on a symptom level, right? So you're always going to get these limited short-term kind of Band-Aid type relief for the challenges that you're having, because it's not resolving the underlying root cause, which I think is the focus of our talk today.
Now, while cognitive therapy behavior and also acceptance and commitment therapy have worked for many people, at the same time, they have not worked for many others. And as holistic adult sleep coaches that we are, we want to ensure that we get it right from the beginning, and we're not leading our clients astray. We're not throwing at them a kind of therapy that may not work in the end, although it has proven, even scientifically and through research, to have worked for many people. We want to target and be exact with all of our clients. So what we want to do today is address specifically why there are some people that CBT or ACT may not work for. We're not saying that it's not valid, and we're not saying that it cannot work for other people. They certainly can. But there are many other factors, as we were just discussing earlier, that are involved that first have to be sorted out and understood. And that's where we're going to get a little bit into my holistic science of sleep method, and we'll talk about that lastly. All right, let's get into CBT. So cognitive behavioral therapy, in this case for insomnia. So if you want to talk a little bit about it, and then I'll share more.
Well, when it comes to things like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, the first thing is that it's meant to be a short-term solution. So you're looking at, 6 to 8 week programs is kind of the norm for these types of programs that are put in place. The first kind of thing that kind of holds people back is there are a limited number of professionals that are actually trained in CBT-i. So that's the first thing. Second, a lot of, with the limited resources in terms of the professionals, they're often booked out, 4 or 6 months in order to actually get in with a professional to speak with them. And then Third, it's really based on the mental work. It's really based on what our thoughts and our beliefs around sleep. It will go into gauging things like keeping a schedule in terms of, what is your environment, your light, your caffeine intake. And while all of these variables can create issues with sleep, it's not taking a holistic approach. So when we're looking at environment, we know, one thing with the holistic science of sleep method, we talk a lot about breath work, right? And that goes into our environment as well, things like air quality. So there are a lot of factors that are not being measured that can in fact be, one of the main causes of the sleep challenge. So I think it's very important to look at the interconnectedness of a lot of things. With CBT-i, we're looking at more of a structured program over a period of time. And when it comes to that as well, it depends on the type of learner, the type of individual who's going through the program. A lot of people don't like tracking their information or kind of journaling or doing a lot of these types of steps that are involved in CBT-i. So then of course they're not going to have that success, because when it comes to implementing long-term sustainable change, something like coaching is really important, right? That supportive piece, I think, is the missing element. Obviously with some of these programs with support groups and so forth, but again, those are short-term, they're not ongoing. And it takes a long time to undo a lot of the challenges that we see, right? It's not overnight. If you have challenges for years and years and years, it's going to take some time to undo a lot of the habits, practices, beliefs that go along with why the challenges were created in the first place. So that's going to be a long-term, sometimes it's going to be a long-term kind of process for individuals versus that short-term.
Exactly. And depending on who the practitioner is, like you said, there are not that many people trained in it. To the point where we would say, okay, they are fully qualified, right? They might have pieces of it. They might have taken a short training. That's why it's important to also do your due diligence. It's important to understand that, like Soda was saying, there are so many factors. For example, gut health affects mood. When you go into your CBT session, you're going into mood, but are you talking about what you ate that day, what you've been nourishing yourself with? Have you discussed what nutrients you might be depleted in that could be affecting your gut, which is then, affecting your mood, right? And the kinds of thoughts you have. So everything is connected there, as we all know, a mind-body connection. We cannot separate it. And so while CBT may be very effective to look at behaviors and thoughts and what's happening, we also have to understand what is affecting those thoughts beyond yourself, because thoughts can also come, they're not necessarily yours. They can come from many other places. They can also be inherited. As we now know, epigenetics, behaviors, experiences, inherited, nutrition, exercise. There's so many things that affect the quality of your mood and the way that you think, that just looking at the thoughts alone by themselves is not enough. We have to gauge and evaluate everything else that's happening in your life to then truly understand how it all functions and works together, and then how we can best use CBT to our advantage.
And I think, an important point to make about CBT is it's about overcoming destructive thoughts. So one of the major differences between something like CBT-i and something like ACT or ACT, depending on how people use both, is that it comes to acceptance and commitment therapy. So instead of overcoming destructive thoughts, taking them as this is part of life, these things happen, and accepting them as part of the process versus trying to overcome negative thoughts, negative behaviors, really understanding it on a different level. So I think that's the two major distinctions between the two types of behavioral-based therapies.
Exactly. So let's talk about ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, because it's interesting. When I look at the two, they're both necessary. Mm-hmm. It's important to understand what thoughts you're having, where they're coming from, what it's connected to. And at the same time, it's also very important to have an acceptance, to not push it away, to not resist it, to not look at it as something bad, but just to understand this is what's happening. This is what's going on. I'm now going to approach this from a place of compassion, from a place of empowerment versus beating myself up, right? That's how we can get to our goal and overcome any challenge much quicker than if we resist what is happening. So there's no question about it. So you started to talk a little bit about ACT. Is there anything else, like any other pointers other than the acceptance and the commitment therapy that you want to share?
With things like ACT, what they do is they're bringing in additional skills. So it's not just in terms of that, they're bringing in things like mindfulness and visualization, so additional skills. And we're seeing a lot of programs at CBT-i that are starting to expand and starting to include a lot of these things. But again, you had made the point about the mind-body connection. So I think it's that physical work that's also missing from it. When it comes to applying these types of programs, it's not just about overcoming a thought system. It's understanding the individual on a holistic basis. I say this all the time when I'm working with someone. Is it someone who, whether they've had short or long-term problems, are they the ones who they'll try something for one day and they expect like an instant gratification, right? Or are they willing to put in the work and realize that, it's going to take 3 days, a week, it's going to take a month for us to see the difference? Like, what are the challenges that you're having? What is the time? And setting realistic goals and steps in order to get to where it is that they need to go. So we can't have this one size fits all approach. And I think that's where we see a lot when it comes to sleep. There's these methodologies that are put together. And with the holistic science of sleep method, we're looking at that whole picture, that bigger picture mentality. And I think that's what sets it apart from what we currently see.
This reminds me of Dr. Daniel Amen. He does so many brain scans. He's been doing this for many years. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he has tons of research and stories. He's become more popular now. He's showing up in reality shows for some celebrities, but he does a lot of work around the brain, taking brain scans and looking at different scenarios. And this reminded me of a specific situation of a case that he shared where a husband of, this couple, this husband of the wife was very violent, very aggressive, always in a very bad mood. And when they started tracking his brain and understanding chemically what's happening to him, it ended up that his workplace, which was filled with so many toxic chemicals and, just affecting him in a way where when they did the brain scans, it got to a point they realized, okay, we have to do some major intervention here. And as soon as they changed his work environment and he started going on this path of understanding that his environment was basically the key to his mood and what was going on, how it was affecting his body chemically and his mood, he became a different person. And then I imagine, what if he tried to go into CBT or even ACT, but did not address the workplace, did not address what was going on in the environment that was taking such a toll on his body and then mind? If we did not address that, this guy would be struggling and fighting with himself. And that's also what often happens with people who hear so many successful stories of CBT and ACT and then wonder, what's wrong with me? Why am I not successful with this? And then they blame themselves more, possibly. They struggle, and then they get even more anxious or more upset. When in fact, no, it's just that the underlying issue hasn't been addressed. Specifically for you, there's something else that is going on that is tied maybe into your thoughts that hasn't been uncovered that we must address. And for that reason, this is why Soda and I are very excited about our holistic science of sleep method approach, because when you approach things holistically through this method, then you're able to utilize all these other tools like CBT and ACT if they're a fit, if it makes sense, if it's necessary for you. Otherwise, if there's another underlying cause and it doesn't make sense to go in that route, then we wouldn't go there. But what's important is not to assume that just because it's been successful for a majority of people, it's therefore going to be successful for you. So we want to take a step back, do a thorough evaluation, and then go from there.
Yeah, when it comes to our sleep, it's the day-to-day lifestyle choices. It's lifestyle is that kind of missing element. And that looks different for everyone, right? So it's looking at all of those key factors, like you had mentioned, the personal life, the professional life, the sleep environment, the habits, the core beliefs, the timing, the nutrition. There's so many different variables that go into that. We can't just measure one. We have to look at the big picture. And I think that walks us right into the holistic science of sleep method. I don't know if we want to read what the actual method is, or if you want to just kind of break down the key points.
Sure. Do you have it in front of you? Do you want to read it?
I do. I would love to read it. So the holistic science of sleep method is an adult and child sleep system that combines holistic thinking, intuition, and the application with scientific method to provide long-term and balanced solutions to adult and sleep challenges. The holistic science of sleep method believes that sleep is a natural function of the human body that does not need to be taught or trained. It's a matter of addressing the things that are interfering with the body's natural rhythms, homeostasis, and inviting a lifestyle for the whole family that supports sleep. The holistic science of sleep method investigates, evaluates, and addresses imbalances in optimal human function, physical, mental, and emotion, and external forces, social, cultural, and environmental, that inhibit sleep and may lead to adult and child sleep challenges.
So we are looking at internal and external factors surrounding every individual to understand from a whole perspective what is getting in the way. Once we do that thorough evaluation, then from there it becomes very clear and easy to know what the solution is going to be specifically to that person. But if we start from the opposite end of it and just jump to the solution, we can easily be running around in circles. So let's talk a little bit about some of those things that we cover. We explained the definition a little bit and we gave some factors, but what does that mean in terms of really what we dive into?
I think when it comes to holistic science and sleep method, we take even though it's a thorough investigative process, it's also very targeted because, again, we're looking at the whole person. So we're looking at what are their goals, both their short and their long-term goals. And from there, we're able to investigate into what is it that should take priority, one thing over another. Because like we said, there are a number of different variables that could be at play. But looking at, usually it's not the poor sleep that is the issue, right? It's the result of whatever it is that we're doing or that we're not doing. So looking at what is it, is someone looking for energy so that they can get to the gym, or they want to be healthier and they want to lower their blood pressure, or, they want to be able to sleep in the same room as their spouse. Usually the goal is not usually tied directly to, oh, I wish I could fall asleep in 15 minutes instead of 40 minutes. It's like, yeah, we want to fall asleep earlier, or quicker, but usually it's tied to a much bigger picture item. So I think that's really important in terms of that investigative process, is looking at what is it the person is trying to accomplish, and how do we as coaches create a plan and break it down into simple steps to follow that will be sustainable and long-term to help them achieve those goals. I think that's the most important part of it.
And we also look at key relationships in that person's life, from their immediate environment, whether they're living with other family members, whether they have therapists or doctors. We're also looking into those key relationships that they have in their life to understand how they're playing a role, what the function of that is, and what works and does not work in those situations as well. Because often people are so easily influenced by the close, intimate relationships in their lives that we can provide so many solutions to individuals. But if we also don't address how key relationships are affecting them and potentially deterring or blocking them from moving forward, that can also be an issue. So that's what's really great about this methodology that we implement and we train all of our integrative adult sleep coaches with, is that they understand that we're looking internally, externally, we're looking at relationships in people's lives, we're looking at work environment, so many key things that make up that individual's entire lifestyle. And by knowing and understanding that individual, then we come to a place where things become clearer. And also we empower the individual themselves to collaborate in that process with us. So the individual has an opportunity to dive deep into their own intrinsic motivation. It's not just, oh, this holistic coach, sleep coach, knows and is telling me exactly what I need to do, so I'm just going to follow exactly what they say, and then you just follow along. No, as a client, you are empowered to understand, wait, why am I thinking this way? What is that connected to? Where did that come from? Why am I making these health and lifestyle choices? Oh, that's really interesting. So you're learning so much about yourself through the process, and as a result, you're then intrinsically motivated to make those changes, not because your coach told you so, but because now you're aware of how you're functioning as a human being and what are the things that are getting in your way.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with a lot of the traditional programs that we see with things like, core belief system, we're looking at, what, like, the myths and misconceptions that you might think about sleep. We're not necessarily thinking about, one of the most important relationships is the relationship that we have with sleep, right? Is it a positive or negative one? Do you love sleep, or would you love to love sleep, but you feel like sleep hates you because you can never achieve it, right? So I think looking at, what was the family situation when you were growing up? Did your family prioritize sleep? Did mom and dad have sleep challenges, like that foundational piece, right? How long have you had issues with sleep? Do you associate your sleep space, your sanctuary in a negative way because of the challenges that you've had. So I think rolling that back and, before even getting into a lot of those big pictures, just evaluating the relationship with sleep itself is one key factor that I think is often overlooked is, do I really like it? Do I enjoy it? Do I think it's important? Do I prioritize it? I mean, we have to start there. I say that's my favorite sleep tip. So how do I get the best sleep? Prioritize it. What does that look like?
Exactly. Yes. And that's part of our foundation. I think that's probably one of the top foundations, which is make sleep a priority, but dive into your relationship with sleep. How do you actually feel about sleep? And most of us are on automatic mode. We're like robots, we're just going along with, oh, who needs sleep? Go, go, go. Let me get more done. It's not necessary.
Sleep is for the strong. Sleep is how you get more done.
100%. Sleep leads to success. Sleep and rest are the key factors to success, to creativity, to abundance, to everything.
Oh, absolutely. I always say it's a catalyst for both your personal and your professional goals.
Yes.
So your pure potential if you just change the way that you sleep. That's the one thing that I always like to say.
I love that. So in closing and bringing everything together, our main message today is understand the bigger picture before you jump to any methodology. If you search on Google, you will see CBT-i come up as a solution for insomnia. You will see ACT Act come up. And knowing that there is first another step to take before jumping into that is very important, because that will save you so much potential headache and frustration if indeed those therapies were not meant for you because there is another underlying cause that needs to be addressed. So take a step back. And if you want to learn more, you can visit our website. You can visit Soda's website, startwithsleep.com, because she obviously is our instructor. She follows our protocol. She has an incredible background, so you can learn more about her work and work with her. You can also visit our website, parentinghealthinstitute.com, where we have a lot of information on our programs, but also if you go to our articles on our blog, we have a lot of articles, and there is an article on the holistic science of sleep method where you can read more, and there's more details included. You can also purchase my book on Amazon.com, Awakening Through Sleep, which goes into all of this. And I believe on Kindle, for a lot of you, you can even download it for free on Kindle. So you can go there as well. But the holistic science of sleep method truly does address things from a perspective that really you can't get away with not uncovering the root cause by utilizing this method. And then you can successfully utilize all these other tools that we honor, that we value, because CBT is fabulous. When used properly, when implemented properly, it's fabulous. Same with ACT. When implemented properly, fabulous. Our concern and why we're having this discussion is because we're seeing that they're not being implemented properly and people are starting backwards. And therefore, we wanted to share with you our holistic science of sleep method and how we work and how that's been successfully supporting our clients and also the professionals that we have been training globally.
I think the last point that I would just want to make is in terms of that word coach. And I think that's really important to note. The way that this system is put together, it is a collaborative process. It's a partnership. So it's not us coming from, from an angle of being a subject matter, a subject expert, or from a place of being like authoritarian in terms of telling you this is what's what about the science of sleep. It's really helping you understand the science of sleep, how it applies to you, transforming that science into meaningful action so that you can commit and be able to make those sustainable changes. And I think that's the most important part, is that supportive piece. And we're seeing a lot of that in the health and wellness field now, where they realize that the coaching piece is that missing element.
Exactly. And that's why now, thankfully, more doctors and therapists are understanding how we are such an asset to their work and can really help manage their clients' health and lifestyle choices, which will make their work a lot easier as well and bring much more success. If you have any questions, any comments, or you want to share any experiences that you've had with CBT, ACT, or even there are maybe some of you out there that have had an experience working with one of our integrative adult sleep coaches and you're familiar with the holistic science of sleep method, please share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you and learn more. And if there are any other topics that you would like us to discuss, Soda and I would be more than happy to add those to our list of upcoming discussions. We will be having our next live sleep chat on the first Tuesday in December, and we'll be sharing that very soon with the topic, and we look forward to it. Thank you so much for listening. If you really enjoyed this conversation, please hit that like button. Please share it with friends that you feel this will be very helpful for. You can also subscribe to our channel so that you can get notified about any other future videos, because on this channel, we have our live sleep chats, but we also share other videos and other information as well. We look forward to connecting with you more and wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday coming up. Take care.